Seven Rivers Lean Consortium is working together on our September membership meeting. It's going to be a Gemba tour in a blended as well as virtual environment. So a lot of times we've talked about it, we've heard about how we need to start doing lean in this kind of environment, but we might not have had the chance to put it to practice yet. So DuraTech has had that chance, and we hope to share some of the tips and tricks on why we're still doing it and how you might be able to do the same. So let's first just give you an overview of DuraTech. Many of you have been here before. Some of you were a completely new company. So at DuraTech, we were established in 1977 up in a garage in Galesville, Wisconsin. Started with a small shop that's doing screen printing. Today we're in 3 different countries and about 400 total team members. Our primary competency is the manufacture of high tolerance graphics for a variety of industries, including med device, automotive, aerospace, and a lot of OEM work. Our biggest growth market is in printed electronics and in-mold electronics. So if you want to learn more about that, learn more about DuraTech in general, please follow us on LinkedIn. It's a great place to hear all about our new technologies and just continue to understand what a local business is doing. Today's objectives, again, this is going to be a Gemba, so not just a presentation. We've had panels, presentations, that sort of thing this year. Today's a Gemba, so we're going to get out there. We're going to do what we're saying we're doing. We're going to talk with our team members and show some techniques for doing that. So with that, please feel free, like when you're here in person, go ahead and ask questions, raise your hands, use that chat feature, and then we will make sure during the presentation those questions are answered. I will have times where I'll pause and ask for that feedback. So please take opportunity in there, or anytime in the chat is perfectly okay. Right now, just getting my chat open. Perfect. All right. Okay. Also, part of our objective today is to talk through some philosophies just so you would better understand the background of DuraTech and how we apply some things. So we'll be talking about our continuous improvement practices, just considerations we've had to have about all the change that's going on around us. And we'll be talking about Gemba, but also using Kata as a form of questioning within the Gemba. And sorry about that. And then we're going to show you how to do it. So tactically, how do you put it all together? And then we're going to go do it. So a little background, DuraTech's continuous improvement system, we put together this visual just so people could understand how we approach it. So like a lot of companies, we have a continuous cycle on the right-hand side here of quick improvements that can be done by anybody within a short time period. So fast improvements, few resources needed. We also have, of course, part of continuous improvement is that strategic plan. So every 3 years, we review our strategic plan, do analysis of what we need to do to adapt to current markets. In between there, really what our focus is on today is this area. So our Gemba today is going to be looking at how we're doing more of our strategic deployment from our annual operating plans down to how that's driving some of our A3 goals and actions, and sometimes overlapping with what we choose to put Kaizen events around. Okay, so just keep that in scope. That's really what we're Gemba-ing today, is this section of DuraTech's continuous improvement. One thing we need to talk about is during these times, how can you be remote and blended? And you know, we've heard a lot of different things, but the key for DuraTech and a lot of other companies that we've heard through the panel during one of our last meetings was communication is key. So during changing times and situations, right, over communication can never be overemphasized. So communication in a lot of different ways and formats. So we have to be adaptable, and really tied to that is availability. So there can be some concerns when team members are home, when team members are present, but just making sure we all know who's available, how, when, and where. So really making sure that that's clear, and we have a means to do that, such as video chatting and some of the other techniques we'll show you today. The last point is that adaptation and acceptance of change. So change is tough, right? A lot of us don't really like it. Our team members don't usually like it. And we really have to prepare our cultures and keep working on that. So we talk a lot about adaptation, what we're doing to change and to get through all of this stuff. So that's a regular conversation we're having within DuraTech each and every day. But change is tough. And if you don't know how to approach it, there's always gaps that can come. I love this visual because the dimensions of change are extremely important to keep in mind when we're trying new things, when we're trying to present concepts. And I think a lot of us forget that if we don't have these different dimensions of changes accounted for, our management plans might not go quite as we anticipated. For instance, if we fail to present that vision and give some context to that vision, right, our team members can get confused. And during times like this, when our plans might not be the way that they thought they would be, are we still adapting that vision soon enough? Are we keeping it aligned to a 3-year strategic plan? Are we taking the time to set a new vision so team members have that consistency and are not confused about what we're trying to accomplish? Skills is always an important one. So if we enter into these realms of new technology, are people comfortable with it? Do they know enough to think that they're not at a deficit and they won't have anxiety for trying these new things? The next is incentives. So how are we replacing one value with another? How are people still motivated to do their work? So keeping incentives and how that might change is also important. Of course, giving available resources. For DuraTech, that's been a challenge. We weren't quite ready for technology. We had to figure out what software we were going to use. How could we get cameras quickly? How could we interact and work with each other in the same ways? So resources, very important part, both from the technology, but also is our IT department ready to support those kind of changes? Action plans, of course. Are we still going to be doing and working on the same things, or are those going to look different? And if so, why are they different? And are people going to be working on things that aren't important anymore, which would create some false starts and waste some of our resources? Or are we aligned? And are we going to make sure what we're working on is going to add the most value? And lastly, collegiality. So how are we still building our teams? Keeping people excited to work together and to find creative ways to move forward. So in today's presentation, I'll be most focused on 4 of these items, okay? So the vision will show what Gemba is really meaning for DuraTech, our skills, what kind of skills have we had to add, our resources, so what kind of resources did we build, and then you'll see my team is amazing. So at DuraTech, I'm really privileged because you'll see all the great people that have joined me today to volunteer and just show you how we do it. So you'll see that firsthand on how great our teams are. So first, let's work on that vision. So Gemba, so the Seven Rivers Lean Consortium is, we were trying to provide 3 Gembas per year. This year, we've run into a lot of challenges in doing that, but we want to move forward. And we want to use this meeting as maybe a possible model that many of our members could use to still allow this interaction between our members and going out and seeing best practice. So we really hope that we can start a new precedent. But why is that so important? I think a main reason, not only within DuraTech, but throughout our membership, is that we're one team. We're a group of professionals that are trying to bring these practices to build skills within our profession. And it builds a nice collegiality between us as a professional group, as well as internally for DuraTech, just showing that we really don't have those barriers, that we need to continue to adapt and work as one team to figure out what the solutions are. The vision itself, right, to make sure we're still aligned at every step, and that vision is coming from the top down in a real consistent way. So going out and talking about it and asking questions about it is a really great way to make sure that we have consistency of vision. And a tie into a previous session. If we remember back to Jamie Flinchbaugh, he presented on the 4 C's of trust. So Gemba is a great way to establish those 4 C's of trust within your organizations. So going out and talking to team members about their accomplishments or helping them through challenges really shows that demonstration of caring, right? It shows that we're taking the time to go see and help get over that next barrier or support the achievements that those groups are having. So the demonstration of caring. Again, I've talked about communication, but really providing that context of what we're doing today, how it might be different than in the past, and what we need to do collectively to go forward. So that communication also helps us make sure that they're understanding what the direction is, though sometimes in some weeks it might be changing daily, right? Other times we can still provide that constancy of purpose and make sure they know which things are remaining the same. Consistency is key. So we're going to be looking at that Kata methodology because it provides a nice framework of asking the same or similar questions each time and allowing our team members to know what the expectations are to help build structures of accountability. So being consistent and using a good structure for questioning is definitely to an advantage. And lastly, competency, right? So we must trust in that consistency and fulfilling what we're doing as a leader delivers on that promise. So for us going out, helping with solutions, investigating issues, helps build that competency that makes sure that the team members gain trust in the organization and continuous improvement in general. So what is it? What is Gemba? So we know why we're doing it, but what is it? So I like to look at it through a few different lenses. We all learn things in different ways, but I like a real structured or a way to Gemba that we're approaching it with a specific intent. So there's really 4 views that we could look through. One is a solutions view. Now a solutions view is, as a lean or continuous improvement practitioner, you would have a tool that you want to use, or you're finding an opportunity to bring structure to a certain area. So it's a great way to go out there and try tools, use them, build that body of evidence, but you have to be careful with this one because sometimes, right, we put tools and apply it to situations that may not be the most important thing to work on. A great way to go try out tools and get teams out there working on things, but just we need to be careful and choose those projects correctly. Another, like we did a dynamic earlier this year, or I guess end of last year, was that waste view. So going out and doing a waste walk and going out finding opportunities for those 8 wastes, right? So a waste walk is a great way to structure a Gemba. Today we're going to be more focused on a problem view. It's a little bit higher level than solutions view, but problems view is how we're looking at objective deployment. So how are we looking at our systems, and in those systems that revolve around quality, cost, delivery, and our culture, or team member morale. So the type of lens we'll have on today is our problem view. And lastly, there's a Kaizen view. So sometimes we already have a structured project about a certain problem and we have to go discover. So we may go out and value stream map. We may look for gaps in standard work, different patterns, routines, process mapping, a wide variety of things that we have to go discover to see how we can fix a specific project or issue within a small amount of time. So that's more of a Kaizen lens or view. We'll focus on one of those tools during next month's meeting in more of the Kaizen view. All right, you still all with me? I have to admit, I'm not seeing the chat right now. So if you are, maybe somebody else that can see it can help out and relay to me. Give me 1 second, please. Okay, we're good. Okay, so building skills is next. So the next will be how to Gemba, right? So we know why, what. So how do we do it? So today we're going to be modeling 5 questions based around training within industries, Kata view of coaching. Also, Toyota Industries, the great book on this Kata in general and how that works within organization. But it's really a foundation of a consistent work practice. Next, I'll show you those questions. And then throughout our day, we'll demonstrate how we're going to be using that line of questioning and looking at our Gemba perspective. All right, so here's a practice opportunity. Since we'll be using these questions and I'm trying to put them into practice, if you know how to do a screenshot, I would go ahead and take a screenshot of this slide. That way you can keep them on another window and you can follow along as we go use them. So this is a structure we'll be following today. And these 5 kata questions, I think, are magnificent for looking at objectives and longer term goals and how we're doing toward those goals. So we're going to be asking about where we currently are today, and where we're going to be. So the first is, well, what are we trying to accomplish? What is our target condition? The next question will be, so where are you today? How do you know if you're winning or losing? Or what is your current condition? Now, these sub-questions, A through D, are really depending on the kind of information you're getting while on Gemba. So if you think it needs more clarification, if you think there was maybe a roadblock that we're not quite getting there and you need to investigate more, these are great questions you can ask on. So where were you before? What was your last step? And how did you get to where you were today? Is it what you were expected? So what actually happened when you did that? And what are those learning outcomes or those lessons learned from this cycle and this last round of questions or last steps that you undertook? So once we've really understood the current condition, it's time to move on to understanding barriers or next steps on reaching the target condition. So we'll be asking, okay, what barriers are preventing you from getting to the next step? What is that next step? And after that's fully understood by you and the comprehension by you is understood by the team member you're questioning, we would go and make that commitment step. So I think this is an important part of kata is understanding where we were, where we are today, and when the next appropriate follow-up will be. So where can we go see what you learned from this last step and know that you're on to the next? Okay, very important commitment piece. All right, so let's add some resources. So now we know how and what we're doing, but how do we make this mobile cart and how do we work in a blended environment or virtual environment to make that happen? So we have some options, right? If we have some really well-connected friends that have lots of resources, or maybe we've got it in with a sports team, we could get one of these mobile carts. It could work. I mean, it's really sophisticated. We see it for sports all the time. It gets out there. We got great audio, video. But for DuraTech, that really wasn't feasible. We couldn't invest in one of those, nor could we find a trained crew right now that would help us out. So we had to take plan or option 2. But when we thought about it, we're like, okay, we can make this simple. We can get some people that are really motivated. They want to get out there and have fun and do things and talk to our teams. We have a lot of chairs that have wheels. That should work. We got cell phones that have video. Mobility might be a question, so we'd have to duct tape it to the foot. Then it led into questions of could people hear it or not, and then it just became a bad situation, and we had to come up with another plan. So from there, we made this humble little cart that's got quite a lot of use on it. So what you're going to see, and how I'll show you to build one of these things, is we put a bunch of technology on a mobile cart. Really what we're looking at is on our cart, we need the cart itself. We'll put a laptop or some sort of computer, a way to interface with the technology around it, the speakers, the headphones, the camera, and some sort of power source, because if we're going to be out there for a long time, we're going to need some power. So our lessons learned for picking and finding a cart is, 1, it's got to be maneuverable. So when we trialed these out and used it, sometimes it's tough to get where you want to go. So if you're choosing a cart, we're just using the supplier quality engineer's cart because it's small, it's mobile, it's pretty light, easy to push up and down our different inclines throughout the facility. It fits on the elevator. What I do like also is it's got some rubber wheels, so I'm pushing it around and trying to communicate. It's got a little more dampening. So for us, lessons learned was we want it quiet, light, and maneuverable. Nothing fancy. We had to give it some power, so it's circulatory system. So how are you going to feed this thing with what it needs to keep going? The picture I'm showing you is not the most approved version, but it's real simple. It's a battery, and then we plug in an inverter so we can convert that power from 12-volt, our portable system, into our inverter. So all these things we could probably find in team members' garages. Okay, deep cycle batteries do work better. We've had instances where we wanted to keep it powered up for 8 hours long, working with remote sites. So if you're powering video, speakers, that sort of stuff, and don't have a lot of opportunity to plug in, definitely invest in a good battery. The eyes and ears are really important. Right now you're seeing me through just one of many different options, and this is my built-in webcam. It's great for this kind of environment, but taking a laptop and turning it, understanding what's happening on your screen when you're trying to use it, it can be really complicated. So one thing we've really loved to implement is this LifeCam by Microsoft. Now, we have no affiliation with Microsoft, but this is just a really good camera. We've used it a lot of times. It has this fantastic built-in microphone. It's HD. It's just worked really well for us. So we can set it in a conference room. We can have multiple people. The clarity is great, and we can see everyone. And also, you'll see on Gemba, I can take this camera and I can bring it right up to something that you may want to see. So whether that's a chart on the wall or a visual, something in process and how it's working, we've had really good success with a camera like this. One thing we found we needed to do too is, and we'll model that today, is sometimes we need a translator. We go into really loud production environments. So we'll model a situation today where we'll be in a louder environment, but the person wanting to conduct the Gemba is remote. So it's hard to use the technology and have it be direct or through somebody that knows the technology that's helping to support the person being interviewed without having a way to hear. So we'll be using a Bluetooth speaker set. That way I'll be able to hear the questions over Zoom, and I'll be able to translate it to our team members on the floor. Speakers can be useful. So a laptop has limited volume on many different models. So having these are great. They can get a little wobbly on the cart, glue them down. And they do consume quite a bit of power, but there are situations where having it available and part of your cart is extremely helpful, especially if you want direct communication from the person that might be virtual to the team that you're at in a little louder environment. The brain, we need a laptop. Laptops work great. We could make a mobile cart. We do have a different version here at DuraTech that uses a full standard desktop computer. But it, of course, has different power requirements. So a laptop is nice and portable. It works well and can be used a lot of different ways. I love using the laptop because there are times we just want to do a quick look somewhere else. So I'll just grab it off the cart, leave the cart behind in the laptop, and the camera can come with. And we can go check things out in different areas if we know we have enough battery life. Lastly, that brain is going to need some software to run. And it depends what organization you're in or what your IT group is or IS group is comfortable with. So having stable video conferencing software is a must. We've tried many different versions. When you're walking around, moving to different locations, that software will need an ability to flip easily between different Wi-Fi areas, different signals, and some are just better at it than others. When we give our creation, this cart, our Frankenstein of sorts, friends, right, we're using Zoom. So we find that Zoom is just really stable in our environment. You might not have the same situation, but for us it works, and it's nice because it's free for 40 minutes. If you're going to use it a lot, then you can do a paid version, and we think it's pretty reasonable. It's pretty user-friendly, and it just gives us that nice flexibility, and I've heard this many times, it just works. So we can get people connected quickly and easily, and it's just helped our environment a lot. So thank you, Zoom. Again, we have no affiliation. Sorry for the picture, that's me working on a weekend, but I want to go through some orientation. So it's time to build some of our skills. So we showed how to build a resource. The next part before we go Gemba is build some skills on how we're going to be using Zoom to do the Gemba. So all of you are tour participants, and I encourage you to look at this bar. So if it's hiding right now for you, go ahead and hover over it so if it comes up. But I want to show you some of the key parts to it that we'll be using throughout our presentation or through our Gemba today. So the first part, if you're on the bottom, what you'll be seeing me do today while we're on tour is using these options. So right when we're done with the introductory part and we go to do it, I'll have to be going into this section, and there's that small side arrow that gives me options for my microphones and speakers. So what I like about Zoom is it's really easy to change those. You don't have to restart the software like some other options out there, and you can do it on the fly. So we will be, you'll see me flipping, but if you want to know how I was doing that, it's really just coming into this option and choosing which peripheral device that I want to start using. Same with the camera. So you can either start or stop your audio, but if you go into that little side arrow, same with video, start or stop it is the main icon. If you hit the side arrow, then you can choose different cameras. So when I switch from my laptop to the life cam, that's the area that I'll have to go to. Chat feature, right? So this hopefully you're using. We'll use that today in some more allowed environments for questions. You can post your questions anytime throughout the presentation. But if you're not familiar with it, click it. You'll see a side window on the right open up. Down on the bottom, you will then have a type of message there. You can send your message to everyone that's here. I would prefer that. That way those that can see it, if I'm doing something else, can help me out. If not, you can send it just privately to somebody else. So that's that area that's really, really useful for some passive questions or things that can wait, as well as just when we're in different environments that are more suitable for it. Okay, what I'll be doing shortly is I'm going to also be opening up my share screen. So if you haven't used that before, you can share your screen like I am right now in the presentation. I currently have it set to just me at a time so that we don't get interruptions. But I'm going to be flipping this to multiple participants. That means other team members, if you're on Gemba, you see something, you want to take a screenshot and show it later, we can make that happen, and then we can dig into what you saw on Gemba and have more detailed and focused conversation around what you're seeing. So please feel free to do that. Now, if you're using that with outside sources, be careful. If you're using it with auditors, right, or people you're not sure, like customers that are new, something to keep in mind in what you're showing through the camera. They can always take a screenshot or record. Reactions, please use those. If you can hear and things are going well, always use that thumbs up. It's nice to see. Things are not going well, something has drastically gone wrong, just please make it cry for me. So I know that we have to do it, we have to adapt. We have to change and make something better for your experience. All right, so now we're going to go do it. So this will be where I will show you as I'm transitioning over my current setup to the next setup. I'll be transitioning that over, and then I'm going to go on mute, and then Gary, our logistics manager, is going to be giving you a little tour as I walk to the first department. So I think that's helpful for this presentation because it won't just be idle time of me walking through the facility, but you can get an idea of our environment and how flexible the cart is. I also like to hand this part over to Gary because I know he's at his desktop workstation. He's going to be in a stable environment. If I lose feed, the show will still go on. I'll just reconnect when I get to a better place. Okay, so I'm going to start that transition. First thing I'm going to do is connect my camera so you can see what I'm doing. So here is my little life cam, and this is just the extension cable with an extra cable because when we get out in the process, it's nice to be able to pull this away from the cart. Again, I'm just bringing your eyes and your ears with me, right? And if I have my Bluetooth on, I can stand quite a bit away from that computer and you still have visibility. Okay, so I'm going to plug that in and switch over. All right, you should now be seeing my new feed. It wasn't that easy and quick. It automatically switched over to the life cam. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to it which it did automatically as well for my audio. All right, so now you see my messy desk and my laptop. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect. I should still have you there. And I'm going to be mounting to the cart. So on the cart today, you see we have a deep cycle battery connected to my inverter, and then powering all the stuff we're going to need today. Okay, so Gary, if you want to start coming online, I'm going to get just ready to start rolling down the hallway. All right, Gary, I see you.
I'm here.
You're here. All right, transition number 1 went without a hitch. Woo!
Good afternoon, everyone. So Tim is a coordinated guy, but we just want to make sure that he's safe. I'm going to guide you to our next stop. So as he gets rolling here, we're going to make a few stops along the way. Here you go.
Sorry for the delay. I just had to put my mask on.
All right, so here we go. We're rolling now. Headed down the hallway. First thing we're going to come to is the communication boards for our HR department. Each one of these boards has a specific heading on them. That is a company-wide headings for each of the boards that the departments have. So we have key performance indicators, quality, continuous improvement, safety was the first one, also the culture, and finally the wellness. Over here we have our clean rooms for our a couple of our presses. We have 4 presses in clean rooms that run at pretty high speed. They do a lot of high-end printing in there, and they are really, really good machines. Now we're going to walk out of the hallway here into part of the manufacturing area. And we're going to take a left turn. We're going to go by some of the raw materials for those machines that are in those rooms, in the clean rooms. You can see right in front of us, we have our material handling area where they're doing material cutting. They are pulling orders and prepping them for production. We're headed to purchasing, which is just a little bit further. Video's really great. There we go. Hi, Amy. Amy's our purchasing team leader, and she's going to be first person up on the Kata questions. So here we are in the purchasing department. Again, we have all of our communication boards.
Okay, well, thank you, Gary, for that. I'm glad we didn't lose any connection. And hello, everyone, again. So we are at our first Gemba destination. So this is an ideal situation for Gembaing. So we're in a quiet office environment without a lot of noise or distraction. So first we're going to work with introducing Amy. Hi, Amy.
Hello.
Hi, Amy. So why don't you I know you've had experience working with remote Gemba before. So just as a reminder, right, we have an audience here. They're looking through the camera. Right, so today I will be asking a few questions about where we're at on goals, but if you want to see what we're looking at, we'll have our camera and video here so you can see exactly what I'm seeing. So just make sure you're comfortable with everything as we move forward.
Absolutely.
Good, any questions?
No.
So one thing to note, the microphone is right in the camera.
Okay.
It's really sensitive, so it'll pick up easily. But if there's anything specifically that you want me to show our audience as you go through and you're explaining, just point to it and I'll make sure that the camera goes right to what you're pointing at.
All right, perfect.
Okay. So Amy, what are you working on? What's the big thing?
I'm going to show you today part of our key performance indicators for material handling.
Okay.
One of those performance indicators is quality and productivity in the
Great.
fact that inventory levels may be inaccurate if things are not counted and
Sure.
cycle counted and whatnot.
So what is your current condition for inventory levels? How are you doing?
Right now, our inventory is sitting really well based on some audits that we do. However, DuraTech at one time was a just-in-time type of environment because we didn't have the space to hold inventory.
Okay.
With the 2018 expansion that maybe most of you are familiar with at DuraTech, inventory is much larger now, and we are able to do that. So part of our goals for this year is to reorganize raw material warehouse using an ABC analysis.
Okay.
For all of our raw materials.
Okay, so is that part of your current condition is understanding what those ABC levels are, requirements?
Yes.
Okay.
So
can you
not
explain
being
that a little
familiar
bit
with
more?
it, but an ABC analysis is every item has a value. It doesn't have equal value. Some cost more, some materials are used more frequently, and some are both. So right now what we have been doing is we cycle count thousands of SKUs every month.
Sure.
Because we don't know their value. We don't know their frequency. A items represent 80% of annual inventory value, B is 15, and C is 5. So if we are able to analyze those materials, we can put them into an ABC classification and then run cycle counts based on those classifications.
Okay. So what you're explaining is here.
Here's my current goal to reorganize.
Okay.
And then
Okay,
we've
so
broken it down per quarter for communication to our senior leadership members at DuraTech.
okay. And so this is our current state.
So our current state is when our goal was started with our IS department, our ERP system provides information of current ABC analysis on those items and what it should be based on the values within our system. We updated all of those, ran an output report, but it showed us every item in our system.
Okay.
Sellable items, raw materials, production supplies, everything. Probably tens of thousands of SKUs then.
So not quite what you expected.
So not what we expected.
All right, so what did you learn from that analysis?
Our learning curve here is that was more than we bargained for. Talking with Gary Rogers, our shipping logistics manager, he stated that he was working on a warehouse management system as well as part of his goals. I was not aware that part of his goals could incorporate cycle countings based on ABC analysis for my department. Okay. So we're integrating the two departments with mixing our goals together.
Well, that's a great learning.
So
finding somebody who was down a parallel path. And
you talked about communication earlier, and that was a gap for us, right? Okay. We weren't sure of what our IS programmers had been working on as team leaders. They have tons of different options or projects that they're working on.
Sure.
But as an individual leader, I don't know what everybody else is working on. So we have been now informed by them of all of their projects and where they're rated, high, medium, or low.
Okay, so it sounds like overall we've improved communication on understanding different projects that are going on.
Yep.
And it looks like you found a path forward. So what are your next steps?
Knowing a couple of things with the warehouse management system. All of my SKUs within the raw material inventory have to be relabeled and identified slightly differently based on lot numbers, quantities, etc. So relabeling, and then also doing testing to make sure that how our programmers have programmed it, that everything will function as it should.
Okay. So it sounds like that will be a multi-stage project
Yes.
with multiple things. So,
And actually, right before Gemba, I got an email stating, "Hey, I'm ready to test it."
well, then, great. So my last question would be, when can we see the next step? It sounds like you're testing already.
Pretty soon.
Right now?
Yep.
No.
No, I'm not ready.
Okay.
Caught me off guard.
Okay. So how did you, and outside of the questions we were asking, how did you choose that as a departmental goal? What was the driver of that?
We order materials based off of need, but we also looked at our KPIs through our turtle diagram that we established.
Okay.
So quality could play a part in the fact that we audit inventory. We need to make sure we have the correct inventory, but if we don't, we may have incorrect levels and not have enough material to process our work orders.
So it really was driven that it was identified risk,
Yes.
and then that dropped into a annual objective.
Yes.
Okay. Well, fantastic.
All right.
Well, thank you. Let me see if the audience has any questions. So audience, I'm going to read your texts or your chats here, but if you want to just come off of mute and ask a question, we are in an environment where we should be able to hear you. So feel free to do that before we move on to our next area. All right. So
Good job.
good job. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I do see one question. One question was, do your communication boards differ from those boards that were shown at the beginning of the vlog? There are standardized titles, as you can see here, but we do empower our team members to have some variety of what they think is most important for their areas. So for instance, we may have key performance indicators. Most often throughout DuraTech, we will see turtle diagrams, our goal setting. But as far as continuous improvement projects or productivity metrics, we could see a different way of handling that through different departmental areas. Okay, but we still want to make sure that all of our teams are staying focused around the high level things that are creating our culture.
And part of culture too, like it may be a DuraTech culture totally, but one thing that I do is I put our birthdays for my team members. Sorry, you shouldn't see all of them, I guess. Our birthdays so that we can celebrate their special day. We also have company events that we put on my culture boards.
Right, it is currently DuraFest,
Yep.
by the way. So you can
and
always ask
everybody is
anyone
different.
today what crazy socks they're wearing, and it will be
I
okay.
forgot all about crazy
Okay.
socks, but I'm interested to see Tim's.
Okay, so Maris, I hope that answers your question. Do we have virtual communication boards that replicate the boards around the office? If so, what platform is used to show the communication boards to allow employees to view and use as they would in the office? Jacob, we absolutely do have those. I'm trying to think if we're going to walk by any. Actually, our last sample or our last demonstration today will be a metric coming from that type of board. So in our customer support area, for instance, we have a television screen that's constantly updating and showing their data and metrics and those trackers, but I can't answer directly what technology is used. So let me get with my IS team and I can answer that question at a later time. I believe it was developed in-house, and there's some that are pulling directly from Excel, but we've also have some other software that's deploying onto those other visual boards. Okay, so Jacob, the specific software, I can get back to you. I hope that answers the rest of your question. Okay, anything else for Amy? All right, great. So we will move on. Again, I'm gonna go to mute as I move through here. We're gonna next go to our screening department. So Eric, if you're there, you wanna get off mute? All right, so as you can see in this environment, we're a little bit louder. This is Eric, who'll be going through our boards. And Dan, when you're ready, go ahead and get logged in. In this scenario, or this stop, we're gonna have our VP of Operations do the Gemba. It's his department area. We thought it'd be good for you to see techniques of our different team members. Hey, Dan.
How you doing?
All right, Dan, so we're
yeah,
having...
let you see my face.
We can see you, but we are having a little hard time hearing. So I'm going to go ahead and flip to my headset, if you just bear with us. And then I'll act as translator in this scenario. So during our Gemba, now since I'm running the cards and everything, I'll just flip over to my headset, and then I will relay the questions that you have.
Outstanding. So one thing, if you could just take Eric and have him do a real quick overview of his communication board.
All right, Dan, I just got linked in with you. Can you hear me okay still?
Yeah, I can hear you great. Can you hear me?
Perfect. I hear you fine. So, okay. So where do you want to start?
Excellent. One thing I'd like to do is, could you have Eric just do a brief overview of his communication board and just show me where his goals are and pick one of those goals that we can talk about?
Yeah, I'd be happy to help. So Eric, I've got Dan here, and he would just like a high-level overview of your boards, and then he'd like for you to show where your goals are, and then he'll choose an objective. Okay? So go ahead. And just to confirm with the audience and Dan, can you hear Eric okay? Go ahead and start talking.
Okay, so these are our key performance indicator boards. We have our turtle diagrams.
Could you please pause? And just a mic check. Everyone's hearing Eric okay?
I'm good.
All right, perfect. So let's continue. Thank you, Eric.
Yep. So these are we have a turtle diagram here. We have our goals for 2020 up on the board. We have all of our indicators in terms of, we have some graphs to show where we're at currently, continuous improvement boards, safety, and then culture, which is our boards for upcoming events and things like that.
Okay. And then over here.
On this side, we have our work assignment boards. We also have another continuous improvement board. So this is our active program and our active project we've got going on right now. And then just some quality area for any kind of defects or things like that we may see within our process.
Okay.
So as we look through here, if you want to go to specifically one goal.
All right, so Dan, just to confirm, do you want Eric to highlight one specific objective?
That's correct. I'd like to have him go to his goals and pick out one of his goals that he's working on,
okay,
and just indicate what the target condition is.
Okay, so Dan would like you to go choose one goal, okay, and just start explaining what your target condition is.
Okay.
So doing streaks there?
That's correct. So one of the top goals we have for this year is for us to increase our fallout, which is our badge product. Highlighting specifically streaks needs for us this year. So we've done some DOEs that they have on the other board. We've basically.
Tim, we're having a hard time understanding him.
Okay, 1 second. They're having a little hard time understanding, so I'm going to move the mic closer to you. Would you mind starting from about here? Maybe just slow down your talk a little bit.
This is where this is our first, second, third quarter, kind of where we're tracking for the year. So these are all the things that we've done specifically for these 4 fallout categories. What we're looking at now specifically is our fall throw and our streaks. So we've implemented standard practices that we found through trial and error as being our best standard practice going forward.
Through the DOEs?
So through our DOEs.
Okay.
So,
good.
Kind of a little background. Last year we were at 7.2% internally for streaks to fallout. So far, year to date, we're at 4.05. So we made some improvements. We're going to see things to sustain before we get take it forward. Okay.
You busy or
I am.
you're busy? You guys behind you. That's what it is.
Okay.
Not,
Live, here we are.
Art show. Okay, great.
So specifically for this, we've
Okay,
done
we're
three
still having a little
DOE
bit of
projects for
difficulty
street
hearing Eric.
Okay.
So
So
these-
you're still having a little trouble hearing?
Okay.
All right, let me make an adjustment here.
Yeah.
Is it the Bears match?
It may be. Okay, check. Dan, can you confirm that's better?
That's a lot better, Tim.
Okay, so the audience knows in that scenario, unlike when I plugged the live cam in, the audio picked up to my own headset. Okay, so it was automatically on my headset and it pulled from the live cam. So I just had to make a quick adjustment. So now we are through the mic that's on the camera and we should start to hear Eric a little bit better. But live TV, folks, these are the things that happen, but don't get nervous, just troubleshoot it and we'll move forward. Okay, so Eric, what are we looking at now?
So these are our three projects that we currently have ran for our Streaks and Ink. We've done 3 different DOEs, and basically what the data had shown, that we've shown a significant improvement based on just standard work and ink management. So that's one of the ones we're going to continue to move forward. We tried some other things that the data didn't really prove or disprove anything, so we kind of ruled those things out. So we're kind of just really focusing on maintaining and standardizing our work and our setups.
Okay. Dan, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here, but I'm not hooked up to your headset, I don't think.
No, so you could hear Eric explain, correct?
Yeah, I can hear Eric.
Okay. Yeah, and
No problem.
I can hear you just fine. So do
Can
you
you
have
just... All right. Yeah, session, he was actually showing us what his current condition is.
That's correct.
And it was muffled quite a bit, but can you just go through your current condition again and talk to us about maybe what barriers are preventing you from reaching your target condition and explaining what that target condition is?
Okay, so unfortunately during this section we explained the current condition was a little muffled. Okay, so if you'd like to understand better your current condition, okay, and then what the next step is for improvement. Okay, sure. Okay, is that back here? Sure. Okay. Did I summarize that correctly, Dan?
Perfect. That was perfect.
So currently, last year we've struggled with our high-end fallout in terms of streaks. So last year we tracked around 7.2% internally where we had issues. Year to date so far, with all the improvements that we've made, we've dropped down to about 4.05. So we did all these DOEs. So currently we're tracking much better than we were last year. But we've done those through our DOEs to make sure that we're maintaining those things correctly.
So Eric,
And then you heard him continue on that to discuss some of the standard work practices that were put in place.
Right.
Is that where you really kind of got you back on track, Dan? Meaning, I think that's when you started picking up the audio. Okay. Dan, do you have a next question?
yeah. Eric, during that streak study, what did you really learn from it to allow you to drop that by 3%?
This question is, during the streak studies, the DOEs that you explained, what really allowed you to drop it by that far? I think,
Yeah. So really, what we did is we standardized our actual setups and we standardized our ink management. So our first one was just making sure that we had our processes in place to manage those things correctly and to make sure that we know this gives us the best opportunity to deliver good parts to the customer. We had some thoughts on a couple other DOEs that we thought might work, but the data just didn't prove any of that stuff out. So that wasn't something. This is what we've really found is the big driver of making good product for the customer.
So in your actual goal, it says what your target is you're looking for a 10% overall drop within 4 different areas. Do you have any barriers that have been put in place that are causing you a problem of reaching that targeting condition?
The overall goal is to decrease by 10%. He's asking, are there any barriers that are preventing you from getting to that target condition?
One of the biggest barriers that we'll have is we run 3 shifts, and we expect everybody to run them all the same. So that's where it's getting everybody consistent and running it the same way and doing it with the same amount of standard work and ink management that we have set in place. So it's really getting those things tied in and then delivering that message across all 3 shifts so it's consistent. That's my biggest barrier right now.
So you have 3 shifts, and how many team members doing this then? On how many presses?
And how many team members total?
So we have 3 shifts, but we also have 9 different people on each shift that can run those presses. So it's really just trying to get, anywhere between 18 to 20 people to be able, 27 people to actually figure out how to run that and run it consistently between the three shifts and the multiple operators.
Wow, that's a lot of people. Okay, so that definitely sounds like a barrier, but you can achieve that. What is your next step?
He agreed, wow, what a incredible challenge, but it sounds like your head plan is to get there, but he's curious, what is your next step?
So our next step is just monitoring our gains and making sure those gains are sustainable. If they are, then that standard work becomes our actual work instruction moving forward, and that's how we'll train that going forward. That's really what our biggest next step is.
Outstanding. When can we go and see what you've learned from the last step?
He's asking, when can we go and see what you've learned about?
Sure, we can go see, we've implemented the standard work at the workstation. I can go show you guys where it's at, where it's located, and things like that.
And unfortunately, we've hit the hour allocated for today's Gemba. Sure. So I want to just be considerate for our audience. I apologize for us running a little bit over. So those of you that need to drop off, I completely understand. Thank you for your time. We're going to go ahead and continue. So those that want to stay on, continue to participate, we should be done in approximately 10 to 15 minutes. So I apologize for the delay. Some of our timing was a little longer. I guess I got too chatty, but thank you for joining us. So those that drop off, we understand. Others, welcome to stay. All right, so we're going to go see, sure, as you said. Yep. And do you want to bring it to the window, or do you want me to come in?
I'll bring it to the window so you can see it.
Okay, so I'll go to the hallway. Yep. All right, so we are modifying a little bit today. The clean room is the environment we would need to go to. As I have the cart, I'm not properly garbed at this moment. But what we'll do is I'll show you through the window, and I can give a play-by-play of what Eric's showing. Do you want to come to this side, or do you want me to go out to the main floor? In here or out there, however you want to. Let's go to the other. I can show. Actually, I'll sit right here. This is okay. So I'm not allowed into that next room. But what Eric's doing is he went up to the press, and there was a board. So now he has the standard work for ink management process and with the DOE revisions that have been made. Right, Dan, you can see that okay?
Yeah, I can see it. He can't read it, but I can see what he's doing.
Do you have any additional questions for Eric today?
No, not at this time. You did a great job.
So he did a great job. He has no additional questions for you today. Okay, great. He's looking to following up to see how our continued monitoring and measurement goes.
Awesome.
All right. I helped him out with a few of those words, but
that's okay. I get it.
Okay.
Yeah, you did.
Okay. All right. So we're going to another transition. Next up is customer service. This is a little remote Gemba. So bear with me as I walk back to a quieter location. So Gemba is what trying to go up to. If anyone wants to talk to me, does anyone have any questions thus far? All right, quiet group. You can come off mute if you have any questions. I'll be just a minute while I transition back to my office. Okay, did I keep you all? Great. All right. All right, can we do just another sound check, please? Everyone hears me okay?
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Okay, Jen, moving on to you.
That's me. Can you see me?
I can see you, Jen.
Yay!
Hey,
So,
right.
really,
From home today.
I am. You guys get to see my home, and hopefully my dogs don't bark. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, we're doing okay right now.
Okay. I do have to tell you, just as a lesson, I had a little bit of a snafu when we started your presentation. In the past, I have been able to hear you on Zoom, but you can't hear me.
Mhm.
I couldn't hear anything this
Oh, no.
morning or today when you started. So I just want to take a couple seconds as maybe we can have this as a learning lesson if you have some situations like this. One of the things that Tim taught me is obviously things don't always go well with your computer, or in my case, my speakers stopped working. And so when we were on Zoom calls earlier this week and last week, I couldn't participate in any of the conference calls from home. So I have since downloaded the Zoom app on my phone. And so what that has done is allowed me to have a secondary option or a backup in case I have some issues with my laptop. And that is how I'm able to get through to you guys today, is I'm actually on my cell phone versus my laptop. So
Wow,
keep
you're
that
coming
in
in loud
mind.
and clear.
Yeah, yay.
Oh, it's great. This is the best we've
Yeah.
ever had on a conference. So
I know this
fantastic.
morning, like I said, I couldn't hear you at all. And I went, uh-oh, this
Yeah.
is not, this is new. So, so again, lesson learned for you guys. So, we can go from there.
Perfect.
So,
Hey, Jen, I have a trivia question for you. On
Yeah.
your display board, we had a question from our audience today. On those boards, do you know what software IS used to create it for you?
I don't
Happen to know? Okay, I'll go ask them later. I just thought you
Yeah.
might know.
No.
Okay, so Jen, for our Gemba of your area today, what are we going to be looking at? So what are you currently working on?
So one of the big projects that I'm working on and a goal that we have is obviously with customer service. We focus on turnaround time, and from the time that a customer places an order with us to the time that we confirm a ship date back to them. And most customers expect that information back in about 24 to 48 hours. So we have a goal established to try to turn around all that paperwork and processing time and get the job scheduled in 24 hours or less. So it's a huge project that we are working on and how we can decrease that processing time. So,
Okay.
so
What is your target condition with that?
target is 24 hours or less is what we're hoping to achieve.
Okay.
And current, oh, you want to ask me these questions?
Well, that's okay. Well, currently, you knew what I was going to ask. Standard work, right? All right. So
Um,
currently, where are you at?
Yeah, currently where we're tracking, for August, we were at 39 hours, and for September so far, we're averaging 33 hours. Which, do you have a screenshot of my
Yep, I can
display?
bring up your display.
I was gonna say, I have it on my screen. I can, sure if the other team can see it.
There you go. Can you see it?
Yep, I can see it. Can everybody else see it okay? I'm assuming so, okay.
Right.
So I know one of the questions asked earlier was about if we had virtual options, and as Tim had mentioned, we absolutely do. So majority of the departments at DuraTech have TV screens, display boards that are up in each of their departments. And what is nice about these display boards is not only can you look at them obviously on the TV screens on the walls, but you can actually access them on your computer screen as well. So I can look at what statistics or information I have on my display board right on my computer, which means I can look at it while I'm at home. And one of the goals that I talked about that we're tracking is turnaround time. So if you look on the bottom half of the screen, it says SO to scheduled hours. And we have, we actually track it not only by months, but we track it by individual days. So on the left-hand side, I track my average for the last 5 days. So I can see how I'm doing on individual days for the last week. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see that we track it by months. So then I can also look at September, August, July, and June. So I can look at just the last 4 rolling months for them.
Great. So currently, you're saying your turnaround average target was 24 hours. That's correct?
Correct.
Okay, so what was your last step for improvement on this?
One of the last steps that we took was I had looked at having my customer service reps help process some of the easy repeat orders. The thought is that a repeat should be a repeat and doesn't need to travel through so many processes in order to get it into the scheduler and into production. So I did train my customer service reps on how to process repeats, but there are several factors and questions they have to ask themselves before they can understand if they qualify to process the repeat. And again, the thought with that was maybe we can eliminate some of the work that our process planners have to do, AKA our internal engineers, I'll say, and get the jobs in faster.
So with that change, were the results what you expected?
They were not. Unfortunately, I found that there were not very many repeat orders that were just straight repeats that would allow the CSRs to just process the paperwork themselves and pass it straight through, which surprised me. So it didn't have as much of an impact as I had hoped it would have on turning orders around quicker.
Okay, so it sounds like just because of that mix that it's not really a barrier that you'll be able to overcome because that's driven by our customers. So what do you see as your next step with that project in reducing that average time?
My next project actually is something that I'm really excited about. I enlisted the help of the Lean team, and so we are looking at having a Kaizen event for my process planning department and the overall process of how we have to do a repeat in our department. So we're going to be looking again at having that Kaizen event to try to really break down each of the steps, and if we have some opportunities for improvement to really help decrease the processing time.
Great, yeah, that's a great option. It sounds like we'll need to do some process mapping or value stream mapping of that process to really understand where those value and non-value added times are.
Yes, correct.
Oh,
Correct.
Great. Okay, so when do you think we can go see what we've learned and when we're ready for that next step?
We are right now working on just the prep work before we actually do the Kaizen event itself. But I anticipate that we'll have the Kaizen event coming into this 4th quarter. So hopefully, I'll just say we should be able to see something by the end of fourth quarter with some improvements based on the Kaizen event. So.
All right. Perfect. Well, we look forward to that. And I look forward to participating in that event.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Great.
I'm very
And I think the Seven Rivers Lean membership will get to see a section of that as well. So
Yeah.
we're going to
Yeah.
be focusing on the tool of value stream mapping. So I think this is a really nice segue of we found an opportunity, and in the future, let's put some practice to work. So great. Well, thank you very much, Jen, for your time.
You are welcome.
For inviting us into your home.
Yes, thanks for coming
All
to my
right.
home. Yay.
Have a great day. Thank you for
You
your
too.
flexibility today. Yep.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, and thanks for using your phone when the other stuff didn't work.
God bless phones.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right, we'll see you later.
See ya.
All right. Well, that concludes our Going and See section of today's Gemba at DuraTech. I'm going to go ahead and just get right back to the presentation and share that with our group. Give me 1 second as I transition. All right, let's do it this way. All right, so in summary from today's event, you know, you working in this virtual and blended environment really takes a lot of planning, right? But most importantly, we have to remember those parts of change. And sometimes when we have this change, we change the media we're using, it's easy to lose that vision of what we're trying to accomplish. So I think a big lessons learned for DuraTech is just continuously sharing the vision and making sure things are moving forward. And those things that aren't consistent and changing, making sure we're really communicating a lot about it. Those 4 C's of trust that Jamie introduced us to are extremely applicable to Gemba, so please keep those in mind. And just be adaptable. Find what works for you. If it's that team that's on a chair and you're taping things to them and pushing them around, so be it. Just be safe. But if not, you know, find a solution that just works for your team and the resources you have available. Mostly, the most important thing is just getting out there, keeping those interactions alive, building the collegiality, and working as teams, whether you can be there in full or not. And lastly, just have fun with it, right? Things aren't going to go right, as you saw today, but continue to roll forward and laugh about those things and learn from those things. And more people will be comfortable with the media and be able to be adaptable when those kind of situations arise. A little preview for next month is just a continuation of how to. So we thought for the end of this year, from a Seven Rivers standpoint, that it would be helpful to model through this from getting out and seeing to finding an opportunity to working through that opportunity. So as Jen said, we had a great setup there with an area that we could do some process mapping or value stream mapping. So Joel Torino will be guiding that training this next month, hopefully using a sample that you just saw today and how that would work in your own environments. So we'll show how to do that virtually with a virtual team. Also, please just note, again, follow us. If you got a late notification to our meeting today, I apologize for that, but we're trying to use LinkedIn more as a Seven Rivers Lean consortium, as well as from DuraTech. So please check us out on there. It's a great way to just get announcements and feeds when things you might be interested come up. And lastly, if you didn't know, today was recorded. We'll edit out some of the non-critical parts, but we'll be putting that up on our YouTube channel. We'll put a link to that YouTube channel on our website, also on LinkedIn. So if you want to look at some of our past presentations, that resource is available for you in the future. Okay, I know we're way over time. I do apologize for that. I hope it was of value, and what we presented today was something that you could use in your own environments. Please let me know if you have any final questions, if you want to come off of mute now, have a discussion. I encourage that. Or if not, just use the chat feature. Any questions, anything at all from the group? All right, thank you then. So if there's nothing else, I'll give you just a minute
No brave souls. We answered everything. You have no technical problems of your own. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and end today's presentation. I appreciate everyone for your interest and learning more about DuraTech today. Thank you.